So today we're going to insulate an exterior wall with fiberglass insulation. And there's a lot of things to know. I've split this video into two series. First, we're going to cover the basics, so like cutting insulation and getting it into place. In the second video, we're going to talk about getting around all the obstacles that walls have. Pipes, plumbing, ducts, electrical boxes, and all that stuff. So I've split these videos into two. We're going to start right now with the basics. Now the overall goal is to make sure that you have a nice, continuous, even layer of fiberglass insulation where it's all nice and fluffy, because fiberglass insulation uses air trapped in the air pockets, and that's how it actually slows down heat from transferring through your wall. So if you compress the insulation or you just don't put it in certain spots, you could sacrifice 20 to 25% of the potential R value of the entire wall. And that's going to cost you money years and years and years from now. So you only get one shot to do this, and you want to do it right, because if you do this wrong, you're going to have a cold room, your wife's going to be mad at you, your heating bills are going to be really high, and you're just going to waste money. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to make sure that all of our pieces that we're going to try to fit into each of these squares, into these wall cavities, are going to be the right size, side to side, top to bottom. You don't want to make any cuts too short, and you don't want to make any cuts too long. And you especially don't want to compress the insulation sideways and jam it into any of the spaces. So what you're going to need to do, the best way to do this, the fastest way to do this, is to keep yourself in order and measure each section of your wall one piece at a time and get ready to start making your cuts. If you're lucky enough to have just 8-foot walls with 92.5 inches in between, you can buy the bats, which are pre-cut. They go right in there. If not, get rolls of insulation, roll it out on the floor, create a little cutting station for yourself, and start making multiple cuts before you really do a whole lot. Make a cut. After you have a few, put them up in the spaces that you cut them for, then make a few more cuts, do the same thing. That's going to keep you moving quickly and making accurate cuts. Now here's another trick. I always add a 1/2 of an inch to each piece that I cut, because I want to make sure that I have enough insulation for a nice snug fit. To cut the insulation, I'm using just a board that I have, a piece of scrap wood. Put it on the fiberglass insulation, push down on it, and that compresses it and makes it easy for me to get my knife right along the edge of the insulation. And I get a nice, clean cut straight down the edge. To make my cuts, I'm using a tool called the Stanley Fat Max. It's basically a long edge snap blade knife. The long blade helps you get through the insulation to make a nice clean cut like that. But what's even more handy about it is the blade snaps at these segmented lines. I'm not sure if you can see them, but each one, when it starts to get dull, you just take a pair of pliers and snap it off, and then this blade stays sharp until it gets back down to the bottom. You don't have to keep changing blades, opening your utility knife, changing the blades all the time. $12 saves you tons of time when you're doing insulation. So you wind up at the end of the wall. Sometimes in the middle of the wall you'll find this. It's a narrow wall cavity. It's a wall cavity, part of the wall that's not as wide as your fiberglass insulation. And a lot of people make a mistake here, and they either do one of two things. They either eyeball it and cut it like that as fast as they can and jam it in there, or they don't even cut it. Even worse, and they just jam it in there like that. The first thing you want to do is measure the wall cavity accurately. And then I like to add a 1/2 of an inch to the width, right? And a 1/2 of an inch to the height. Take a piece of insulation, and you're going to need a long, straight cutting edge, like a level. Hook my tape measure to the edge of the level. I move the level around until I see it lined up exactly where I want to make my cut. Then I go to the other side of the level and do the same thing. Then I can make a nice clean cut on the insulation. Now it's ready to put into place. It's going to fit exactly. It's going to have a friction fit, because one side of the insulation is obviously not going to have the stapling flange. So you have to think, you want to make sure it fits in there nice and tight, but it's not compressed at all. Before I staple it, I'm going to fluff it up a little bit Push the fibers in the fiberglass insulation around so they make sure they touch the plywood in the back and the 2x4s on the sides. And then I'm ready to staple. And you'll always want to staple on the face, not tucking it in like that. If you tuck it in, it compresses the insulation. It also creates an air gap for air to move around in. You're better off stapling it on the face and using drywall screws instead of glues and nails to put your drywall on. Some people have a big problem not putting glue on the wall, but if you use enough screws, you shouldn't have any problem. Now when you want to staple it, I have a $15 staple gun. You can get a tack hammer if you want. They're about 30 bucks. All you got to do is put the two pieces of paper together and staple about every 16 inches. So that's it for the basics. You've learned how to insulate an exterior wall pretty well. But they're going to get into a lot of situations where you run into these wires, these pipes and ducts, outlets, plumbing pipes, you name it. And when you run into those things, there's some tips and tricks in the next video, advanced techniques, that'll show you how to insulate around them to maximize the full R value of your fiberglass insulation. So check it out. If you're sick and tired of spending too much money on your energy bills, stop by my website at howtohomeinsulation.com. You'll find the videos and information you need to start saving money on your energy bills right now. My name's Corey Binford. Thanks for watching.